Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Lands End Podcast. We are here to talk about everything Club Leon related in English. So if you guys are listening us via YouTube or Periscope on Twitter, let us know what your thoughts are. If you agree, disagree, give us your insight. What did you really think about last weekend's game? Which me and Louie are gonna definitely recap. I know it's not the best game to recap, but hey, we'll have ups and downs. So shout out to Carlos and Javi, who will not be able to make it tonight, but will probably be back next week. So, Louis, how are you feeling today?
Better now. I've had a few days to let the bitterness wear off, and there have been some favorable baseball results since then, and things to keep me distracted. So, yeah, better now than on Saturday for sure.
I think none of us really expected that type of game to go that way that quickly. No.
No, I don't want to be over dramatic, but for me personally, it brought back a little bit of PTSD. I take pride. I take pride in having been to every single Liga MX match between León and Monterrey in Estadio BBVA since it opened, and it took the longest time for me to even see a positive result there, a draw, let alone a win. That was like the last place. That was the last. Yeah, was that? No, yeah, that was. Well, no. I guess that was San Luis was the last one where I saw León win. But for the longest time, it was Estadio BBVA. We just got super unlucky results there, and some of them were pretty nasty. And I say it's PTSD because, look, León over the last few years it's been a different era of the club than it was prior to that. This version of León, you go expect it, wherever they play, you expect them to be competitive. And it's been that way, I would say, since the 12-win season, since Nacho Ambriz's first win season. I would say that marked the beginning of a new era of the club that's been the club since then. I mean, they're always compete, always competitive. You don't necessarily go into a tough place to play always expecting to win, but you do expect to see a good match, competitive match. You don't expect to get blown out. It's been a long time since we would have ever expected León to get a result like the one we just saw. And it took me back to, I want to say we haven't seen, well, first of all, we hadn't seen León give up 5 goals in a Liga MX match since the Chavo Diaz era, which seems like a lifetime ago.
That was a long time ago.
It seemed, yeah, it was practically a lifetime ago. And the last time we did it was in a pair of two straight away fixtures in the Clausura 2018. The first one being against Monterrey in this same stadium, and the second one being against Santos 2 weeks later at the TSM. Those were both 5-1 losses, identical 5-1 losses. Those were the last 2 times that we gave up 5 goals in a game, and that was an eternity ago. And that was an era in which León just they couldn't hang. I went to all the games. I loved them. I was there with them, but they just couldn't hang. You knew once the game started to get out of hand, it was just going to be a slippery slope, and that was going to be the result. And I forgot what that has felt like since the team has not been Club León's identity for the last 3 or 4 years. It just simply has not been the identity. The identity of the team has been something far more positive, like always in the hunt, a title contender even. And the team that we saw on Saturday was anything but, and it brought back painful memories of those Chavo Diaz teams. Chavo Diaz, or even the very first year, or the first season with Ambriz, which was split between Chavo Diaz and Ambriz when he took over halfway through. There was 1-4-0 at home against Puebla under Ambriz in that same season that we also didn't look particularly competitive. But it's just been an eternity since this has been the team's identity. I'm not saying one result defines them. I'm not saying one getting blown out like this in one result means that it's going to happen. And again, I'm not saying, it's going to be a slippery slope this time, but it just brought back painful memories of those years, 2016, 2017, 2018, just the dark years of the club between the bicampeonato and the resurgence with Ambriz. There were some dark years in there, and this is what Saturday's result reminded me of. I sat through a lot of matches like that at one point. I didn't think, frankly, just the way the team, how far the team has come along in the last few years, building the Esmeralda, just like the investment, the players they bring in, just everything. I frankly didn't know if I would ever have to suffer through another era of Club Leon like that. And hopefully we won't. Hopefully they can bounce back from this and still have a competitive season, if not a title contending season, with the players that they have. But yeah, this was a little piece of a very bad memory of a very poor era of this club that I thought I would never have to relive. Just not competitive. It's not just not getting the result, but just not looking competitive. I hoped we would never be in that point again. And man, that's why I say PTSD.
No, I think you explained it well because it has been a long time that we haven't felt like that. I mean, those days and back, like, oof, they were tough. And then obviously with, like you said, from there on out, things have been getting better. Obviously, we had some rough patches with the line towards the end, but it definitely felt like you said, we're not freaking out. We know. I think at this point, it's a big growing pain. I hope it is a big growing pain for Paiva from here on out, because I really don't want us to go through that again. But yeah, I just was very frustrated very early on. So shout out to Carlos that's not here, but I'll do his pregame. Brought to you by Club Leon EN. If you guys aren't following, follow Club Leon EN. Keep you updated with all the live updates of the matches. So for the pregame news, he had the return of Fidel Ambris after serving a 1-game suspension. Last podcast we talked about all the red cards that Leon has been getting lately. Also on the news, he had that Santiago Colombato officially transferred to Portugal Famalicão on a loan with an option to buy. I think I saw there was someone from a Club Leon Twitter account or something had an interview with him, but I haven't seen it fully yet. And then
I'm still mad at him. I'm not ready to read that interview.
Yeah, we're still mad at Colon, baby. And then Carlos had mentioned last about that Leon would play. They are in, is it Tokyo?
Hiroshima, I believe.
Yeah. I'm really bad at geography. Yes, Hiroshima High School, U18 this Monday, 4 a.m. Central. So we hope that they'll do well. Now for the starting lineup, obviously we had Cota in goal. We had Byron Castillo, Barreiro, and Belon as center back duo. We had Ozzy as a left back. We had Pontes, Fidel Ambris back, of course. Davila, Joel Campbell on one wing, Men on the other one, and Diorio as a starting lineup. I mean, no big surprises, right? Pretty standard.
No big surprises. Byron opening his account, accounting for the one goal that we had. That was during about the 15-20 minute stretch of the game where it looked like they might maybe force their way back into it somehow. And then, and then things unraveled after that. But yeah, that stretch with Byron's goal. And then, of course, Cota saving another PK. That's 2 PK saves on the season. Something that, as good as he is, he's never really been known for, at least not in the same way that Yarborough, for example, was.
Yeah.
Saving PKs. So, it's better not to give up the PKs in the first place. But if you do, it's nice to see that Cota has added that to his arsenal. Yeah, that was the opening 15-20 minutes of the second half. That was the one point in the match where it was exciting to watch. They were drawing me back in. And then it just came crashing down again because they just didn't have the answers ultimately. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you can say much about the lineup. That's the best lineup available, I would say.
Yeah.
Just that back line. That back line, I don't know what's to be done about it because, as I would say, there are a lot of individualidades destacables in that back line. But as a unit, it's just not working.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're starting to notice the CEO not being there. I feel like he's the closest thing to kind of like a quarterback on defense
Yeah.
that we have. And look, Belon has had a great season, but he's still consolidating himself in first division. Byron has so much responsibility in the attack. And he also, I mean, he's usually tasked with man marking the most dangerous player on the other side of the team, on the other side of the pitch, I should say, on the other team. And I feel like he gets a little overwhelmed at times. He doesn't get very much support at all from Barreiro, who's having not a very good season. His worst season by far.
Yeah.
His worst season by far of a very up and down career with Leon. And this is by far his worst season. He's not providing much support there on that back line. And Osvi, we all know what I think of Osvi as a defender. So just as a unit, that back line isn't
they
working.
just weren't in sync, though. Like, I think
they were not in sync, and they haven't been in sync a lot over the course of the season. It hasn't cost them like it did in this match. It hasn't cost them in terms of giving up goals, but that doesn't mean, you know, that they haven't been great at preventing quality chances as a unit. It's very disconcerting. And you'd like to think that when Tecillo comes back, which honestly should be getting pretty close. I don't know what the timetable is for his return. Yeah. I think at this point, we're past the 6 weeks the estimated 6-week timetable that they said for his return. Mm-hmm. I haven't heard anything. I hope his return is coming soon, because I think we can really use him. It's very, very concerning. They got torn to shreds on the counter against Monterrey. To their credit, Vucetic had a game plan, and he ran it into the ground, and they were relentless. And Monterrey specifically has the kind of players that can really take advantage of the holes in our back line. And they were merciless, and they were relentless. And to their credit, like, they did exactly what they had to do. But the most concerning thing on our end is that just we had no answer for it. Like, there were no adjustments. There were no adjustments made. But more than that, I don't know if there were any adjustments to be made. So,
well, yeah, because really I even said, like, what are we going to do at this point? Are we just going to, like, sub a midfield out and just, go into a back of 5 at this point? Because we were just, the thing is, like you said, Vucetic did what he needed to do. And it was the same play every single time. That was to a goal. That was to a goal. That was to a goal. And even then, Gotas had a couple of saves. And it was just like the same play over and over and over again. And it didn't help that no one was helping them. Mena wasn't dropping back at the beginning. Joel wasn't. Davila wasn't. They weren't doing it. They were just like leaving them out there to die alone on the counterattack. No one would help. I think that was the most frustrating part, on top of how we know, like you mentioned perfectly, our defense is not the strongest. They're not in sync. Osby, I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, we've been really hard on him, and I'm still going to continue to be hard on him. I don't know what he's doing. I really don't know what he's doing. Like you said, Barreiro, he has up and downs, and this season is really not his season. It's just like you said, what would be the answer to that game? Right?
Well, they certainly didn't have the answers in game. You'd like to see, okay, coming out of halftime, to their credit, they were like, well, we can't defend these guys, so the best defense is a good offense. We're going to be more dangerous on the attack. And to their credit, they were for about 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah. But then, just one descuido, and they left the fourth in, and then at that point, it's game over. Yeah. The fifth at that point was pretty irrelevant, because the game was already over at 4-1.
I just wanted the game to be over at halftime during the first half, because that was just too. Too painful to watch.
I mean, I was there in person, and I wanted to enjoy the experience. I always enjoy my visits to Monterrey, as maybe I have mentioned on here. I have history with that city. I lived there for a time. Many friends there. They're the ones who always help me get the abonos and renta to go to the games in both stadiums up there, and I always have a wonderful time in the city. But it's just so much better when Leon looks competitive, and they had no answers. That was very, very disconcerting. They got some soul searching to do, and they got a lot of tactics to figure out, and they have to figure out what to do about that back line. I don't know if some personnel changes are in order, or if the CEO comes back, do you sit Barreiro? And there's a lot of stuff or do you sit Osvi? Like, they have a lot of questions to answer. And I'll just say this, Ponchito Gonzalez hat trick, that stung. Because
I was gonna say, yeah,
as we recall, there were pretty serious rumors about him joining Leon in the offseason. And
we wanted him.
my understanding is talks failed, or talks came crashing down when Victor Davila did not want to be included in the transaction. He did not want to go to Monterrey. At the time, I was like, well, we don't get Ponchito, but we keep Davila. I guess you can call that a wash. But honestly, Davila hasn't been on his best form. He finally got on the score sheet against America a week ago. But other than that, he has not been on his best form. And so for the player that we could have traded for him, scoring a hat trick on us was just kind of salt in the wounds, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, I've always liked him as a player. He's had a couple of inconsistent seasons, but I mean, that game, I was just like, man, wish you would have actually, had him. But the goals came early on, minute 4. Then after that, 34, 37, went at halftime 3-0. Then the goals came at 71, consolidating Ponchito's hat trick. And last one, Luis said at 88 near the end, which was whatever at that point. 5-1. I just would not have thought that game would have ended 5-1 at all. I'm still kind of in shocked. What I watched was an actual game, and like you said, I think Baiba had came out a conference today saying que le urge que regrese Tecillo, which we'll see how that'll shift the defense. I mean, we could be thinking, yeah, if you sit Barreiro, put Tecillo with Belon, which would be interesting because obviously we've seen Belon and just Barreiro since Tecillo was injured. And then what if instead of Osby, just maybe I don't know if I was thinking this, but I mean Yaito back. I'd rather have Yaito over Osby.
Yeah.
If it was that kind of movement, or Tecillo as a left back, which I don't know. I guess what Baiwa thinks about that, and then keep Barreiro. But to me, at this point, like we both agree, Barreiro is just like he has his good moments during the game. Sometimes it's sometimes those bad moments can kind of overshadow the good ones at that time.
His bad moments are always costly. That's the problem. They are always extremely costly. That's the thing with Barreiro. Like without fail, whether it be a reckless challenge that leads to a red, or just a silly juvenile man mark that fails, and it just results in a goal. His mistakes invariably result in a goal for the opposition or an expulsion. So yeah, I just don't know what are you going to do with him. But I've never gotten the impression that with whatever manager he's played for, I don't get the impression that they want to sit him ever. Mm-hmm. Like if he's available, I feel like he's a titular indiscutible. And Paiva's very, very bullish about his lineups. Like he doesn't like the media, and he does not like the fans like questioning his lineups. He's like, pues, igual yo les veo algo que ustedes no. Like he's very, very bullish about his lineups, and so I don't think he's going to make drastic changes. We'll see when Tecillo comes back what he decides to do, but unfortunately, I don't think that any of it will involve benching Barreiro, which I think is what he could really use.
Or at least a game, right, to see a difference. I mean, he hasn't really. I mean, we like I mentioned, we've seen Balon with Barreiro, and I mean, in that game versus Pumas, Barreiro had a good game, but after that, it's kind of been kind of iffy. So it would be interesting to see Tecillo pair up with Balon. It's just that left position, because Osby would just get beaten down back to back that Monterrey game, which is no surprise to us, unfortunately. But man, like I think that's the other position.
It doesn't help that Ambriz technically a contención is not particularly holding down the contención all that well. He certainly didn't.
He's not. That game was just not. Yeah, no. Yeah. That was very disappointing. So after that game, we heard that Mena was going to be part of the Liga MX All-Star. Then he got injured, which Paiva had said that he's not going to be available for Mazatlan. I think apparently I had heard Ecuador national team was like, don't rush his. It's a kind of something that he's been dealing with the pain. It's just, I guess maybe right now he's just over the pain and wants to recover. Ecuador's not really pushing him to get recovered, so obviously we won't have him next game versus Mazatlan. What did you think about Mena in that particular game versus Monterrey, though?
Yeah.
He wasn't been his season. Outstanding.
He was not out. He has not been outstanding in quite some time. I don't know if if it's father time catching up with him or what. String of injuries that have slowed him down. I don't know if he's got one more push in him. He's still a very good penalty taker. I was hoping that PK against America might galvanize him. So far, not the case. We'll see if he plays against Mazatlan, and if he does play, we'll see if he's effective. Yeah, I haven't been impressed with him, but who have we been impressed with since the first few matches?
Just Belloni, Di Giorgio from the beginning. Obviously, Di Giorgio's on a drought.
And Byron, I would say. It wasn't his best game either, despite the goal. But, I mean, they're hanging him out to dry on that right side, I feel like,
Yeah.
It's hard for him, and it's hard for him without that support to be as effective in marking as he has to be in the attack. So, yeah, hopefully we start to see some improvement on that back line. That's all I could say.
Yeah, because
until that happens,
leaving him to die alone. It was just so bad to watch. I was like, again. And then to me, if I was Kota, I'd go in the locker room and be like, Osby, really? Like, Kota with his penalty save, but it's like, man, I think goalies always have the toughest position on the field because either the game depends on them or because of the team's results, they get punished. As much of a great goalie he is, I mean, he definitely saved us that once. That would have been more than 5 goals. But still, I mean, that 5 goals, that's just brutal for a goalie.
It was brutal.
Just brutal.
It was brutal, and we're talking about a season where we came off that we missed the repechaje on goal differential. Like these things matter.
Yeah, they do. It didn't matter the type of game we had versus Toluca. I mean, at that point, it was whatever. But tough losses. Hopefully, we bounce back versus Mazatlan. But I hope besides that, you had a good trip to Monterrey, Louis. I know it wasn't the result you wanted.
I had a good trip. I had a good trip to Monterrey. I will be returning in about a month for the Tigres match as well. So hopefully that one turns out better. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We'll see where the team is at on September 10th. But yeah, not a good result. I'd gotten spoiled. The first few results I saw there were all dreadful, but then the last few up there have been solid. A couple of draws and a win. So I guess I'm getting spoiled. Well, I got a crushing reality check with that result. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, hopefully this will be a good growing pain for Paiva to make some changes, and hopefully we really don't get a result like that anymore because we've been lucky enough to not go through that. But quickly rundown of the other matches that happened this jornada. Atlas and Querétaro. It seemed like Atlas was going to lose again, but then they came back with a 3-1. Unfortunately, both had a red card. Mazatlan beating Chivas 2-1. Not a surprise. Shout out to the Chivas hermanos. You guys are suffering. I don't know how you guys still are standing, but I think from what I know, Chivas del Norte, all the fans are more. They actually watch obviously the Chivas Femenil because they give them what the Chivas Varonil don't, which is happiness and triunfo. So obviously our devastating 5-1. Suns winning at home 4-0. I went to that game. That was crazy. Toluca beating Xolos 3-1. Necaxa beating San Luis 2-1. Pachuca beating Tigres 2-0. Tigres with the red card. And America beating Juarez 2-1, which that almost came to a draw. But hey, America bounced back with 2 goals from Henry Martin. So there you go. Next jornada starts tomorrow. Querétaro versus San Luis. It's kind of a boring game. No offense to anybody that is fans to Querétaro San Luis.
Yeah, that's not your. That's kind of your throwaway game of the night.
Yeah, like no, not even bother. But stick around Friday for Necaxa versus Monterrey and Xolos versus Puebla. Saturday, home game, 5 o'clock versus Mazatlan, which we'll talk about in a bit. Pumas with America. Pumas coming back from a loss. I mean, I didn't watch the game, but it was what 6-0. I think it was what 3-4-0 at halftime or something like that.
Yeah, it was 4-0 within the first 30 minutes, I think.
Almost looked like us.
I was really hoping Barcelona will put in the 7th so that they'd be even worse than Leon in 2014.
I feel bad for the Pumas fans that we need to travel over there to just watch their team get like thrashed.
Well, eerily similar circumstances too. Same competition, same score, and at that point, Leon had Rafa Marquez. I guess he left the team shortly thereafter, but he was still on the team at that point. So it was like Rafa Marquez returning to Barcelona as a member of a Mexican club, and this is Dani Alves returning to Barcelona as a member of a Mexican club. So it was just strangely analogous circumstances, and then it goes exactly the same way. I thought it was funny. Nobody needs more of a reality check than Pumas fans. Like,
Louis.
No, seriously. I'm not going to say I don't like them less than Chivas. Nothing that could never happen. But nobody's has been in more need of a reality check than Pumas. They think they're living this wonderful era. They haven't won anything. They have won absolutely nothing. They think this Lilini era is like great, but he's going to leave and without having won anything. So like reality check, Pumas fans. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that.
Well, Saturday, besides the Pumas, America straight after, it's the Clásico Tapatío, Chivas versus Atlas, which we'll see how that ends. Also, Saturday at that same time, Juárez versus Pachuca. Then Sunday, there's 2 matches, Cruz Azul versus Toluca at 5, and Tigres versus Santos at 7. Then we'll have a doble jornada, which is no surprise because the schedule is crazy. It's a World Cup, but after Saturday, we'll play Thursday versus Santos, and then we play Pachuca. How are you going to do? Are you just doing – you're doing Pachuca, you're not doing Santos, right?
Yeah, at this point, as much as it pains me, Kari, I don't believe I'm going to be able to make the trip up to Torreon for that Thursday night match. Yeah, that's Thursday night. That's just too tricky.
I know, and until I mentioned that, and you mentioned that it was on Thursday, I was like, I totally forgot it was a doble jornada game, and that it was on Thursday. So
yeah, and even that Pachuca game, I'm going to go to that Pachuca match, but it's a Sunday night, and I have to work Monday morning, so we'll see how that's going to work.
Do it?
I'll find a way, but it's not going to be particularly well. Last time I went to Torreon, they played on a Sunday. And I had to.
Oh yeah, you left that night.
I had to leave that same night to catch an early morning flight out of Monterrey. Yeah, it was not, and I've done that. It's not the first time I've done that either.
Oh gosh.
So, yeah. But this time, I think, there's just going to be a couple matches this season that, well, there was already one, And
Yeah.
this crazy cramped season. This is gonna be a couple games I can't get to, but I'm gonna get to as many of them as I can.
Because after Pachuca, obviously you're home. We're home against Atlas, which that game will be interesting. But I'm assuming you will go to that home game.
Yes, yeah, I
Then
believe all the
after
remaining
that,
home games I should not have any problem. And
okay.
then
So after that, we have
yeah,
Necaxa away
Necaxa
after Atlas.
on a Friday night. Normally I wouldn't be able to make that one, but just so happens that I have that Friday free, so I will be there in Aguascalientes for the
Good, because I
Necaxa
think you
match as
didn't make
well.
it last time, right? For that
I didn't
Necaxa
make
one?
it. I didn't make it last time for the same reason that I would normally wouldn't be able to make it this time. If they play on a Friday night, oftentimes I can't make it. Yeah, missed the Juarez match for the same reason.
And then we have
Yeah.
Juarez home, and then the Tigres away, which you had mentioned earlier.
I will be at that one for sure.
Then it's Cruz Azul, and then away. Then Querétaro home.
I don't think I'm going to make that Cruz Azul match either. That's also a midweek.
No.
Yeah, it's that's a
Your last
midweek away
home
match.
game will be the 2nd, which is Xolos, October 2nd. I mean, obviously we're all next week. We're like literally like half of August, and it's October's gonna come so quick.
I know, and then it's going to be over. I mean, if we make a long Liguilla run, we could be playing through most of October too. But even then, yeah.
Well, I need them to go so I can actually go to the Liguilla game. But
Yeah.
anyways, well, let's not get too excited. We'll just cross that when we get there. So next match, like I had mentioned, will be against Mazatlan. We had mentioned that Mena will be out during that game. That because we're in jornada, what is it? 8. So I think what they were saying to see if we could be back the jornada 10 ish. I don't know if he might be. Well, I guess depends if he's trains or not. But I mean, next week would be doble jornada. I don't know if he will be until maybe after that week. Obviously, there's been. I think I saw a comment about what about Celestine, blah blah blah. I think
Yeah, that's
we
the
had
other
mentioned
question.
this game would be good, no, to test him out, or
I think this would be a great time to test him out for sure. Bench Barreiro, please, and put Celestine in, please. I don't think that they'll find another way to do it, but that should be how they do it.
Yeah. Especially right now before the 2 doble jornada games. I think if you're going to test them right now. See if that works. If not, then go back to the drawing board. I mean, we can't afford to lose points next upcoming. We can't afford to lose points for Mazatlan. And if we at least get a win and a draw in doble jornada, I mean, I'm content with that. But I think these next 3 games are very, very important.
They are indeed.
Because currently we are 9th. So Toluca's in first place. Then we have Monterrey, Tigres, Pachuca, Necaxa, Santos in 6th, Puebla in 7th, Xolos in 8th, and we're 9th. We're 9th place with 9 points. Pumas 10th with 8 points, and so on. So Querétaro are in last place, no surprise. Chivas are in second to last place, no surprise. Then Mazatlan. So we're facing a team who's in 16th place. We need to win this next game, period.
We do. And fortunately, I think the fact that it comes off of this devastating loss, I think will put a fire under their belly. Normally, you'd think of this as a trap game. Suppose they'd gotten a good result in Monterrey, we'd be talking about this Mazatlan match as a trap game for sure. I don't think it'll be that in this instance. I expect them to come. I expect them to come out and crush it. Yeah. I look. So are we going to get in? Are we getting into preview of that match now?
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
So let me just say, we missed the repechaje by 1 point last season, and it was the games against lesser competition. It was the games against teams that finished below us in the table that killed us. It was playing down to our competition that killed us in the last tournament. Just think about it this way. We drew against Xolos in Jornada 1, 1-1. They finished below us in the table. We drew against Querétaro at home, 1-1. We drew against Toluca, who also ended up finishing below us last season. In the last match day of the season, 1-1. We drew against Santos.
Yes,
1-1. They ended up
1-1.
finishing below us in the table. That's 8 points. 8
Yeah.
points we left out on the table against teams that ended up finishing below us in the table. We played down to our competition. Those 8 points would have had us, I believe, in either third or second place in the table. It's crazy to think about the points we dropped against lesser competition. We still have a lot of lesser competition to play left this season, and those have to be wins.
Yeah.
There's just no two ways about it. Playing against, we cannot play down to our competition at any point this season, and so this, I don't expect that to happen against Mazatlan this Saturday, but it'll be a good test. Can they go out and take care of business? Because that's what they're going to have to do. They still have to play. I mean, if you look at the remaining schedule, there are a lot of games that should be wins on that schedule.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to be. And it starts on Saturday against Mazatlan. Mazatlan, there's nobody on that roster that scares you, especially playing at home. Like when you play them in Mazatlan, any team, like some strange things can happen. They get motivated. They got they have a pretty good fan base there. I'll give it to them. But when we are playing at home against Mazatlan, nothing short of a multiple goal win will be satisfying.
So let me ask you, from next 3 games, Mazatlan, Santos, and Pachuca, how many points right now at this point are you expecting Leon to at least take away?
I mean, I'd love to get 7, but if we get 5, I'll be okay with that. Especially because Santos away is always tricky, as you know.
Yeah.
They're a good home team. They just absolutely trounced Cruz Azul at home. And Pachuca, they haven't looked quite as dominant this season as they did last season.
Mm-hmm.
But they are still uno de los equipos mejor armados en el torneo. And, it's going to be tough to go in there and get a win too. Yeah. So if we can get a win and 2 draws out of these 3 matches, however we get those 7 points, or sorry, those 5 points, I'll be satisfied. I think 7 would be an amazing haul out of those 3 matches. 9 would be unrealistic. 7 would be amazing.
That would be optimistic. Yeah. No, I think 7 is realistic for me. Although 5 is not bad either. I guess we just have to see the bounce back, right? We have to see the bounce back after this game, and then how the doble jornada goes. And with that, are we going to have the same defensive line versus Mazatlan? Byron, Barrero, Belon, and Osby, which we know Osby is fine. Osby, unfortunately, he gets these many injuries, subs out because he's injured, but then the next game he's ready to go. So he's fine. But
starting the match, I would assume that those would be the 4. Yeah.
Yeah. What about after that?
Maybe Celestine. Maybe Celestine will get some minutes. Like if it's minute 75 and we're up by at least 2 goals, I could see Celestine getting some minutes.
Okay. Reasonable. So with Mena being out, are we starting Fede? Or what are we doing?
I don't know.
Fede hasn't really been on he hasn't been on the radar at all. I mean, we saw Elias
coming out of camp. Coming out of camp, he looked to be favored by Paiva, and then of course he had that wonder goal in that opening match against San Luis.
Mm-hmm.
But just like he did with Holland, he seems to have fallen out of favor. So I just I don't know what the deal is with him. I want to think he's a good player. I want to think he's got a lot to offer, but he just can't. No termina de convencer.
Yeah. Also, we'll have Joel Campbell starting. Montes and Fidel Ambris. Jefecito's back, no?
Yeah, I suppose we could see Jefecito also. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah,
We're hurting in the contención. Like I
we
just don't think
really are. That game was just not good. I
we
mean,
don't
it
have
just
any
made
good
a sense of
options there.
urgency how we actually need a legitimate contención, especially with the
Absolutely.
defense that we have. It's just no. Fidel was just not. I mean, I like to think what Carlos thought next pod about Fidel, which I mean we like Fidel. It's just that game was just hard to watch with him and no support. It was just too much crumbling in the background.
Too much.
Maybe we hope that the Yorio gets a bounce back and actually ends his goal drought.
Yeah, when we get to prediction time, I was gonna say I think this is gonna be a bounce back game for the Odio when we got to prediction time, but I'll just say it now. I think it's gonna be a bounce back game for the Odio.
Also, tickets are 2 for 1. Super
They
cheap
are.
tickets that I saw. So, we think Louis expecting a full house, or maybe not so much after this result.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I think that's what they're thinking. That's the way they're gonna get their full house. I
It's
got
a
2 extra
Saturday,
tickets.
5 o'clock game.
Yeah, I got 2 extra tickets for each of my abonos, so I'll bring some folks hopefully.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, we'll see if it'll be a full house at home. Hopefully, a win. Just quickly checking to see if there's anything I missed out on. Oh, I think Club Leon announced a friendly versus Chicago Fire. Why? I mean, I don't know. I hate these friendlies. I don't know why they're doing them,
well,
especially with this tournament. I mean, with this tournament being
but
so
pretty
short.
much every team is doing them now. It's kind of a Leagues Cup preview. I kind of like. I don't know. I kind of like the additional. Like a match against a team like that. Just I think there's a random Liga MX team versus a random MLS team.
Yeah,
I think I don't mind it so much.
I think
I lived in Chicago for a while, so I would love to be able to get up there for that one. I don't think it's going to happen, but
what is
that'd
it?
be a lot of fun.
September?
Yeah.
So September 24th. There you go. I think one of our followers, Chris King, I think he lives in Chicago. I think he was pretty excited, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
he certainly was.
So
I think he's also a Chicago Fire fan, so that's gonna be interesting for him.
clash. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and go to prediction time.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Prediction time.
Louis, you'll be attending, of course, this home game, like you mentioned.
Yes.
What is your prediction after having such a tough away match and coming back home to Estadio Glorioso with?
I think it's going to be a solid. I think it's going to be a 3-0, a solid 3-0. Mazatlan does not win in Leon, and if that last match doesn't inspire them to come back home and beat up on a team like Mazatlan, then I don't know what will. So I'm going with a 3-0.
3-0. You're leaving them scoreless. That's pretty.
3-0. Brace for the Oreo. One of them being a PK because I don't think Mena will play in this match. So
Good point.
I think the Oreo will get his chance to take a PK. He'll bury it and he'll get another golazo from the run of play. So two for the Oreo, brace, and then the third. Let's say
Joe Campbell.
Let's go with Chapo. Chapo will get a goal. Maybe boost his confidence a little bit.
Okay, 3-0. Dang, Louis leaving him scoreless. I'm gonna play a little bit more. 2-1. I'm gonna go with the 2-1. I'm always usually up very, very up there because you guys choose different scoreboards. I always want to be different, but not realistic. But I think I'm gonna go with 2-1. I feel like our defensively we're still shaky. I think we'll just have to see what happens from here in the next 3 games about that. If anything gets changed, if anything gets moved, especially if Decio comes back in the next couple games. But I really hope we have a win at home. I just want to see a better version of Leon, the one that we know, the one that's still in progress, but that shows good things, and not letting them just suffer and lack that sense of urgency and sense of comeback. I mean, for crying out loud, that if that Pumas game was not a sense of what they could come back, I mean, I need that fire every single time from them.
I'll take a 2-1, but I won't. That would be a very underwhelming result for me. An underwhelming win against Mazatlan at home. I need something. I need something more than that. I'll take the 2-1. I'll take the points, but also they need to dig out of that goal differential hole that they just dug for themselves.
Okay, we'll definitely see what happens. Hopefully, you have a good game at home, Louis. Shout out to everybody that is listening to us via Spotify, iTunes. If you guys are later watch us run back on YouTube, catch it on Twitter. Hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I mean, you guys already heard us break down the Monterrey game, but hey, we're burying that game and moving forward as there's lots of more games coming up, more opportunities for Leon to get high on the table and have a better ending of the season per se, because we're already in Jornada Ocho. From here on out, I mean, it's not that many games left, especially within the next month and a half or so. So, Louis, we're going to go ahead and take off.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching us. Hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we'll be back next week on another episode of the Lions Den Podcast.